Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update. So we have one expected piece of news to reveal the tease from yesterday, and then two other pieces of news that have popped up, but there's sort of like a third included in this, as you'll see as we get to it. But first, Diamond Select teased an exclusive Avatar Diorama repaint thing for the Aang. Here it is. So it is $50. It's coming out in October, or you'll get it for October. Aang Antique Gallery Diorama. So it's just this one picture, but you can see immediately what it is. It is just a full-on repaint, in that they're even painting the air effect part. I'm not a huge fan of this. Now, admittedly, that's because for me, with sort of statues and stuff like this, like, I want it to resemble something from the show. So it being sort of show accurate in some way does mean a lot to me. So taking one of my favorite statues, the original version of this, and just giving it this sort of like bronzy antique effect doesn't really do too much for me. It feels a little bit too much like the sepia Aang type situation, where it's literally just like a color palette like shift, rather than changing it to be like a slightly different iteration or version of the character. In that, for me, even though it's super boring and kind of low effort, I would much prefer they just did the normal version, but Avatar State version. White tattoo, white eyes, that's all you need. In my mind, at least, that's something that I would maybe be interested in buying, because I do really like this statue. This one, just no, because I think it's trying it to me to be a little bit too artsy, when I think you should keep it simple with the repaints. So yeah, there's that if you are interested in it. It's only just the one Aang Avatar repaint exclusive here. Next, we go to this. Now, this is probably my third time re-recording this video because of how to cover this information. Initially, it was, okay, this and then the extra little piece of news. Then I found out a little bit of extra information and recorded it. But then I found out a little bit of extra information again and then had to re-record it. So here we go. So the 2023 calendar, we've had a description for this for a while. Now we have a cover preview and we basically know exactly what it is. So here is the cover. Now, straight away, boring because it's so similar to the previous one. For anyone wondering, here it is. 2022 versus 2023. It's the same thing, zoomed in a little bit more on Aang. The wording on the top and bottom slightly different and a different color. Like, really? There's nothing else? Nothing else you can do here? This is boring. This is not good. Don't like that at all. November 1st is still the release date. There are some preview pages though. And this is the thing, these preview pages feel a little bit misleading because, you know, 3 out of 4 of these images are new things, but then we'll get to something else in a second. So we find out that for April we're getting Yoon, and it's our first full color like look at Yoon. So that's cool. This is again Shadow of Kyoshi, our art from the exclusive edition, us seeing it here. So the earth is my element. I just let other people borrow it sometimes. Very cool that Yoon is included here. I do like that. This is the same Rangi as the previous calendar, so that's a bit boring, but okay. Yangchen, and it's the cover of the Dawn of Yangchen here for December. And then this quote is very, very interesting. Better to parry the sword than heal the wound. So, brand new quote there. She's never said that before. So this means it basically has to come from the Dawn of Yangchen as a quote that she says in that. So what does that say about anything? I'm not sure. The use of heal, does it suggest a waterbender character who has healing, or is it just part of a general piece of advice that refers to just the body can heal just slowly? The advice itself is interesting in that it is better to block an attack coming at you than it is to heal the wound after taking the attack. Now, if it is to a waterbender, I think it has maybe a little bit more meaning than if it's just referring to general healing, because that would suggest the idea of don't just rely on your ability to heal off damage, block, don't take any damage, and especially coming from an airbender feels like very, very much sort of airbender style advice. Avoid and evade, block an attack, dodge an attack, rather than take it and deal with the consequences of that. It might be some statement on using your physical abilities over using your abilities at all time, your special kind of powers at all time. Who knows? Like I said, if this quote is more referring to a waterbender, I think it's slightly more interesting. But again, we have no context for this quote. There's going to be so much other dialogue details in this book. But it is weird that the calendar is our first ever insight into any details about the interiors, in a way, of the Dawn of Yangchen, in terms of getting a direct quote. So that is nice. Then you have this. So yeah, the cover image clean is going to be the art print for the 2023 calendar. Again, a little boring because they're using the same image in the book as well, and it's the cover. But you know, it's fine. It's going to be somewhat thematic in that, you know, this is coming out a couple of months after the book, so here you get a poster of the cover. That's quite nice. And that, like, if you can't get access to like exclusive editions that kind of have poster included, you can get the calendar and it has the poster. So that's pretty good from the same publisher. But the problem with this comes in when you look it up elsewhere and it has more of a preview. So you can see here, 2023 calendar, same 4 images, but then we also have the back cover. And this is where it all starts to go very, very wrong. And all of a sudden the wrongy isn't just a one inclusion again. It's basically the entire rest of the calendar is identical. This Zuko is in the last one. This Image of the Nations was in the last one. Same Sokka, same Katara, same Toph. The Yoon is new, of course. This Suki is the same. Rangi is the same. Azula is the same. Ozai is the same. They've switched the Kyoshi that was in the previous calendar to now be the Rise of Kyoshi cover art. But in general, you know, it's just Kyoshi used again. You have the cover image from the original one. It's not even the updated new cover image with the sort of kind of red effect. It's just the older one with the blue effect. And then the new Yangchen image. What's going on here? Because again, just to confirm, this is the back of the 2022 cover, and you can see Katara, everything's the same. Basically, take out Bumi and Pakku, insert Yoon and Yangchen, and then swap out this Kyoshi for a different Kyoshi, and the calendar is effectively the same. That's not good at all. The only other thing I'll say is that, again, part of why I re-recorded this was that I initially was going off the idea, well, the description for the book says Aang, Karuk, Yue, Kyoshi, and Yangchen. So because we don't see Yue or Karuk on this preview, this must not be the final version of the book, and it's just, you know, copying over a lot of the other ones so they have a thing to show off. But if you'll read the description here, it's changed while still being in line with the previous update, including Aang, Katara, Sokka, Kyoshi, and Yangchen. So they've removed any mention of Yue or Karuk from this, and so Yangchen is now the only addition, because again, this one said Aang, Katara, Zuko, Toph, and Kyoshi. So that's not good. Relatively, you know, late in the game change of, oh yeah, you're not getting a new Karuk image, you're not getting a new Yue image, instead it's all this sort of stuff. That's not a good look, I think, at all. You know, the whole idea of exclusive watercolor illustrations, when how can you really call them exclusive when more than half of them were in the last one? I get it's exclusive in the sense that, like, I guess this art for the most part is only being used in these calendars, but this is really, really bad wording, especially with the idea of like 12 new illustrations created especially for this calendar. No. Now, are they keeping all these points? Like, they are, even on this one. So I don't know what the deal is here. Why do I have this open? Okay. So here is what the Abrams book description says, and I think this is the most kind of like damning thing of all with this. Updated for 2023. So it's now going from sort of in a way like being its own separate product. It's just, you know, this is the 2023 calendar compared to the 2022 calendar. They're now sort of calling the 2023 calendar an update on the previous calendar, which I don't like. It also has the character description here, as you can see, and you'll notice that basically the only thing left out of this is the mention of like new illustrations. So at some point in the process here on this, they had planned to do, I guess, all new, including Karuk and including Yue, and probably new versions of other characters. They scrapped that for like what, more than what, 75% the same? That's terrible if that is in fact what the situation is. I think this is like, at least for me, I already had this book on pre-order. I'm basically on the verge of being like, I think this is like pre-order cancel kind of time on this, if that's how little new stuff is actually in this, and with how they've chopped and changed the descriptions and the information about the book, like really bad. I don't think it can be understated how just wrong I think it is the way that this has kind of ended up working out, given that this book has been up for pre-order with the other information and, you know, has now suddenly changed after all this time. So really not great. And so it's like, am I getting this just for the slight new stuff? I'm not sure. Like, obviously a calendar is going to be useful anyway, but I'm not sure about that. I really don't like that. And especially because so many people are not going to be aware of that, and they will get this calendar expecting new stuff, and they'll only realize it's basically the same when they get it. So that's why I think it's important to like cover this stuff now, to really get across that, hey, if you were a pre-order for this and wanted it to be new, it doesn't seem like it's new. Now, hopefully Abrams will say something, or there'll be an update to this, but it's looking like whatever this was planned to be has changed, and that's why it's so similar. Last thing, Wan Shi Tong Adventure Guide Files, Project Updates, and Print Preview. New update for the Avatar Legends role-playing game. So with the Wan Shi Tong stuff, it's basically just that the final version of the PDF is going to be coming shortly. That one, I think it's mainly just error corrections. I'm not sure if there's like any like new art necessarily that we're expecting for this one. So I'm not even sure like when we finally get that, if there's going to be that much to talk about. Again, I'll cover it on the channel if there is anything, maybe a couple of new pieces of art, but I don't really think so, because we did get new art from that book when it was initially released. So that's coming soon. Printing updates. This is the big part of the update. Unfortunately, we have some regrettable news. So at least they're leading off with the idea that this is bad news. Like, there's no way to really sugarcoat this. This is bad news. There is a delay to this, and it's actually quite a substantial delay. They'll do their best in the wording of this to basically say, oh, it won't be that long, but it looks like this is actually a huge delay. Big delay. The printer we're working with is currently functioning at 30% capacity due to COVID lockdowns. This means they can't give us a solid timeline on when the product will finish printing and when it will be sent to us. Even at full capacity, again, this is not actually the case. If it were at full capacity and not 30% capacity, it will take several months to print all of the books. So immediately you have to factor in the idea of like, oh, well, if this is the current capacity, then how long is it actually going to take? Do you just do the direct obvious math of like, you know, multiply the time by 3 because the capacity is divided by 3? Is that how we do this? Probably not, but it should increase it. So several months, like a lot of months. So sadly, with the reduced capacity, it may take longer. May? Now, obviously, there's a scenario where like, if this is one of the main projects that this printer has, and they devote most of what remains of their capacity to maybe solely printing the Avatar stuff. Maybe it is the equivalent that, you know, one of many projects at full capacity would be. You know, you can see the way it could work, but realistically, they are saying straight away here that there's going to be several months before anyone receives the book, full stop, assuming things get back up to normal capacity soon. But that's several months to print it. Then it has to ship from China to Magpie, and then Magpie have to ship it out to, I guess, directly to people in America, and then if you're in like other countries, I guess, ship it out to whoever's shipping it there, and suddenly this several months at the earliest is going to turn into quite a bit of months, and then because of the capacity thing, like, we're immediately, I think, talking like, what, 9 months or something like this, aren't we? Like, I'm being a little bit negative here, but that's the way that this reads, is that right now, they don't know how long the delay is going to be, and they're not even willing to speculate about it to give us more of a timeline. You know, they're communicating, we apologize, we can't give you it, we don't want to promise something with unknowns. Again, this is where, like, you can use your communication to make it clear it's just like an estimate. People can read. Like, if you say that, like, this is a complete estimate based on the information that we have right now, we are thinking here, but this is highly, highly likely to change because of this, and this. There's a little bit of a sense of, like, just the unwillingness to say anything resembling an estimate is frustrating. And, like, I get it. Like, again, they say so much is in flux right now because of this and this. But this has been the case since the start of this process, since they started trying to find printers. And now, all of a sudden, the last 2 updates have been, we've switched to China, and, oh, China, 30% capacity. Who knows when the books are coming? This is not great. These have been, in the sense of when I'm actually going to get the books, 2 pretty devastating blows in terms of any sense of getting these things soon. I hope I'm wrong, but that's the way I'm reading this, is that we're in May now. Several months realistically means 3 months at least. So the earliest, I guess, people might get these are like late August, September, and that's being very, very generous, because again, that's not factoring in the reduced capacity. So straight away, like, the chances of these books coming out this year feel like non-existent. And then things feel so bad that, are we lucky to see first half of next year? I don't know. But honestly, like, this is the way I think I expected this to go, looking at the way they handled other projects. I had maybe some faith that because it was through, like, Nickelodeon, that Nickelodeon wouldn't let it get to this point, but it seems like this is going the way of the other Kickstarters that they've had, where it's just getting into very, very heavy delays when it comes to the physical items. So not great. They do at least give a print preview. Admittedly, I felt like they maybe should have gave a little bit of an update on this a while ago, but it just speaks to how far behind in the process they kind of are, that they only have this to show now. Not too much to say here. The journals, they slightly changed the design for the Aang and Korra one. It was sort of more shadowed, darker, so they seem to have just gone for the plain image for that, which I don't mind. I actually think that's a good change. The bag, the fancy bag, I think used to be tan kind of coloured, but now is navy, in line with most of the other stuff. Other than that, there's not too much to say there. This image, I wish the lighting was a bit better, because I can't really make out the sort of shiny effect that the covers are meant to have for the kind of fancy editions. The lighting just means I can't really tell too much, but, you know, nice hardcover book, it's fine. First ever, I think, look at the combat action deck in terms of what it's actually going to be. So you can see a plain Suki card, which I guess is meant to represent her NPC legend, and then 2 technique cards with screenshots from the show. So that's going to be the way they do that, which seems good. There's the journals, there is the cloth map. The kind of sewing, stitching along the sides, I think doesn't look great, especially like on the corner. I'd maybe be expecting like slightly higher quality stuff, but maybe that will change. We'll see. Small updates on the virtual tabletop. Basically, we can't say anything. All-Star Play Game, if you're interested in that, filming next month, likely to release in the fall. But again, that's just like a celebrity game of the game. So that's fine. They're going to be at Gen Con and Breakout in terms of conventions, and they'll give more updates. So, yeah, look, it'll be cool to see if the Wan Shi Tong final version has anything new in it. I'm not really expecting much apart from maybe a little bit of corrections. The printing update is probably about what was expected. Look, it's hard to be super harsh on them given what's going on, but it does feel a little bit like things have got a slight bit out of hand, and it's beginning to spiral a little bit out of control. I don't think it'll go so wrong. I'm hoping that it's not like a thing where, you know, we'll be lucky to get the books by a year from now. I hope it's not that bad, but that kind of seems to be what they're saying. And I kind of don't like that that is the direction that this project is heading, but they are being so hesitant to not in any way suggest that. And that's been like the sense, I think, with this project for the whole time, is that in the updates, they've been like optimism, optimism, optimism. But then these things happen and it's like, why didn't you make it clearer that this could happen? You were being really optimistic about it, and then suddenly it really falls through more than you maybe think it would. Just a slight bit of just, okay, like, come on. How bad is this? Because just the fact that they don't fully put this together in terms of like, this seems like a really long delay. But anyway, in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on this. The exclusive Aang Antique version. Whatever is going on with the collector's edition wall calendar and the fact that it seems like mostly the exact same as last year's book, but randomly has our first ever quote from the Dawn of Yangchen in it. What do you make of this whole situation? And if you were planning to get this, does this change your mind about potentially actually getting it, cancelling an order, because it's what looks to be like 75-80% exactly the same as last year? And then the Kickstarter update. What are your thoughts on what seems to be a major delay confirmed? But that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.